There's one cut of pork that screams American barbecue. It is pork ribs. And today we're going to be looking at two different cuts of pork ribs. Let's talk the differences of a baby back and a St. Louis style spare rib. Both these are pork ribs. This one is our loin back or baby back, and it sits high on the hog, so you can see it has a lot of that lean loin meat. So the difference between this one and say our St. Louis style rib that lays on the bacon or the pork belly, you can see it has a little bit more marbling and a little more fat. We need to treat these differently on your grill or smoker. If you want a leaner cut of meat, you would be looking then for the loin back. See how nice and lean that is? If you want to say fattier, more luscious cut, as I like to say, St. Louis style spare rib has a lot more marbling and again, a lot more internal fat. So the cooking processes today are different for each cut. We're going to take these for about 2 hours, and then we're going to wrap them with a nice butter mixture so that we can protect that leaner meat. The St. Louis style spare rib, we're going to just let go. We're not going to wrap because that internal fat will protect it during the smoking process. So with both of these ribs, the loin back or baby back and the St. Louis style spare rib, we are going to peel off what we call the membrane. And the reason we do that is this is a tough piece of like silver skin that won't render off in the smoking process. So if you have that beautiful meat that's tender, then you're going to get to that membrane. It's going to be a little chewy and bouncy. So we're going to peel both of these off, both these membranes off. And I usually just kind of grab a little paper towel here and just kind of, you can see I'm just peeling that right off of there. Comes off pretty easy. And we throw that away. You can see how that's nice and peeled now. And we're going to do the same thing to the St. Louis style rib, which is a little tougher to do. Sometimes you need a little knife or a butter knife to do. Sometimes that membrane on the St. Louis style rib is a little tougher to do, but you work at it. It's worth the time and effort. I'm also going to clean up. If you can see that, there's a little, what we call a diaphragm there. I'm going to clean that up. We don't want that. We're going to discard that too. And then we're going to just go back and clean up any kind of little bit of fat. You can see there, we'll take all that off of there. And then any kind of, you might see a few, like there's a little bit of gland right there. I'm going to pop that off, just cleaning up little spots. When you're out shopping, a lot of times you will find loin backs or baby backs already peeled, so you won't have to touch them unless it might be like a gland or something in there or a little bit of fat that you want to take off. Most of the time, your St. Louis style ribs will have the membrane on it at the grocery store. Now, again, if you don't feel comfortable doing this, you can also have your butcher say, hey, can you peel these real quick for me and clean them up? So now we're going to season our ribs, both sides. I'm using what I call a smokehouse rub, but you can use any favorite rub that you have at home or that you love to make. And again, you can kick it up with cayenne or put some savory ingredients like rosemary or thyme in there. Just happen to use this one. It's just got a nice salt and sugar balance to it. So, and what we're going to do is I'm going to pour it in a sifter because this is a great way to season and get an even coat. And now you could use a flour sifter too, same principle, or a strainer like this. And then I just kind of come back here with my hand that's been touching the meat, the pork, and I give it a little rub. And now we're going to flip it. We're going to do this bone side. And the reason, if I don't know if you noticed, that I did the meat side of the loin back first, and I did the bone side of the St. Louis style spare rib first. The reason is that we're going to smoke the loin back upside down, as in bone side up, because it has this natural curve, and those juices are going to collect in there as it smokes and help to self-base the meat. This one again, St. Louis style rib, a little more internal fat. We're going to do it straight up, get all that beautiful color on the top side of the meat. So we're going to season again end to end because we're eating the whole thing. And again, using the sifter is nice because I'll show you at the end, because sometimes you get a little, whether it's a store-bought one or you make your own, you might get a little clumps of sugar in there. and that kind of gives you an uneven cook, and you can see that on camera. There's little clumps that don't go through. So now we're going to let these sit for 45 minutes to an hour, covered, and let them in a cool place, not right out in the sun here, but in a cool place where they'll kind of sweat and kind of, that's again, that rub will get in there, kind of start semi-curing the meat, and then we'll adhere to the meat really well. And then we're going to throw them on the smoker. So we loaded this up with lump charcoal. Again, you can use charcoal briquettes if you're using a kettle smoker, obviously pellets on a pellet smoker. We want to target about 240 to 250 degrees temperature of the smoker. That's the ideal temperature, within 5 to 10 degrees of 240 and 250. We set it up with charcoal. We put a couple chunks of pecan in there and a couple chunks of cherry because we have a big smoker here. And then we're going to load these babies up. Again, indirect. Again, I'm going to go meat side up on our St. Louis style spare rib. And again, I like to kind of take the meat. I don't want to stretch it out. I want to kind of keep it nice and tight so we get a nice juicy rib. And again, we're going to go bone side up on the baby back or loin back. Monitor our dampers, or set your, if you have an electronic pellet smoker, set it for 250 and just let it go. We're going to let this go for about 2 hours. And then we're going to check our loin back. And at that time, if we like the color and the look of it, we are going to get a couple pieces of foil. We're going to put a butter wrapping mixture in there, and we're going to wrap it up. And we're going to let it go for another hour to hour and a half until it's nice and tender. On the St. Louis style rib, we're just going to let it go until we get beautiful color and we have the right bend, which I'll show you later. And then we're going to start putting a barbecue glaze on both the items when we know that they're done and tender. All right, we're going to check our loin back here. I like the color. We can see it's not done yet. It's not breaking at all. So this is our perfect time because we got beautiful color on that. See that? Isn't that a beautiful thing? Again, this is our loin back. Remember, leaner piece of meat, leaner rib. So we're going to put, this is a little butter wrapping mixture. Honey, brown sugar, butter, little apple juice. I'm going to put a little bit on the bottom here. I'm going to put it meat side down, like so. I'm going to pour it a little bit more. There's actually a little mustard in here too. If you don't like mustard, then leave it out. If you want a little hotter, put a little hot sauce in there. Now we're just going to wrap it up nice and tight. Like so. You notice again, I put it meat side down. We're going to protect that lean meat. Now it's going to go back on the grill, the smoker. Again, smoker's at 250. I'm not wrapping the St. Louis style spare ribs because that has a more internal marbling and more fat because it lays on the bacon. I'm just going to let those go and let that fat kind of render out of there, because sometimes you can get that little bit of layer of fat in there could be offensive. So we're going to render that out, and it's going to be a beautiful bite. All right, we're about 3.5 hours into our smoke time. So we're going to check our ribs, and they look beautiful. Our St. Louis one, you can kind of see that it's bending and not breaking. That is perfect. That's what you're looking for. Just like that. And let's check, let's pull our loin back out. Oh, that looks beautiful too. We got some exposed bone. That's what you're looking for. You're looking for some exposed bone on that. We got gorgeous color. And again, bending. See how it's kind of bending but not breaking? I don't want fall off the tender, mushy pork. I want to have a nice bite, but tender. So now we're going to put this down, bone side down, back on our grill. Oh, one thing too, you can save this juice and defat it later and put it in your favorite barbecue sauce, and it'll be just delicious that way. Here I have my favorite barbecue sauce, a little apple juice and a little hot sauce in there. And now I'm just going to kind of baste these on the meat side. And I'm going to close the lid. I'm going to let that glaze set approximately 5 to 15 minutes. Again, smoker's at about 250, and then we'll take a look at them. All right, it's been about 10 minutes. Again, it might take 5 to 15. It's an approximate time until that glaze sets. We're gonna check our ribs, see if we like them. We don't just like them, we actually love them. Look at those. Those are beauties. That's your St. Louis style spare rib. Nice even color across, end to end. This is your loin back. Beautiful color there too. Let's take a look at the interior here. You see that? Nice color there, beautiful. Let's take a look at one of these loin backs. Oh yeah, nice and tender, looking good. See that? You can tell that meat's nice and tender, but not mushy. And there you have it. We have our loin backs on this side. We have our St. Louis style spare ribs on this side. Takes a little bit of time out of your day, but well worth it. Just follow these techniques and the recipes. Enjoy.